You know, I get scared, I get upset, I get very emotional doing these stories, but I'll keep doing it for those odd moments, those odd ripples that, you know, create change. And I say, if it's one person, two people, three people that I inspire in my career, then I'm more than happy. I see myself increasingly not as a photographer, but as a storyteller. You know, I'm fascinated by sharing stories, and I think stories have a mojo, a magic that I don't really understand, but there is something about the right story that can really hit people and make them inspired, make them want to do something. You know, a story can create so many different emotions in people. And for me, photography is how I found my way of telling stories. You know, I wanted to be a writer, but I couldn't write. I suffered from dyslexia. I really struggled my whole life to tell stories. And then at 18, when I had this camera, it was like suddenly I had my voice. And that gave me the ability to tell stories. And photography is unique. You know, photography has this amazing ability to capture a fraction of a second of somebody's life. It's literally a fraction of a second. And yet through that, we can learn so much about somebody else's life. You know, it's funny, as a photographer, I feel now that I photograph the things I hate most in the world. I think most photographers, they photograph the things they love, you know, whether it be a landscape, whether it be somebody they love, you know, whether it be on a fashion shoot, it's the things they love. I photograph everything I hate in the world. And that's actually a real challenge for me. You know, it's taken away a lot of my love of photography, because I only ever now really pick up a camera to photograph something that's made me angry, that's upset me. The reason I do the work I do, the reason I wanted to do the work I do, is because I looked at the television, I looked at stories, and I said, I want to do something about it. I want to make the world in some small way a little bit better. And the only thing I knew I could do was tell stories. It's very easy to dismiss something when you're talking about millions, and you say, well, we can't help all those millions, we can't have all those millions coming to Europe, we can't do anything for all those millions. But show a story of one family. Show a story of Khulud and her family, and how incredibly loving they are and how supportive they are. Khulud, a young woman who was shot by a sniper's bullet, left paralyzed, living in a tent in the Bekaa Valley, and you see her kids on the bed doing homework with her. You see her husband holding her hand, kissing her hand. And you look at that, and that just reminds you of what this really is about. This is about human stories. This is about people whose lives have been destroyed by conflict. And really that's all I wanted to do, is remind people of what was going on. It's all the photographs that I take of families, of stories, of communities that for whatever reason don't make the cut, they don't make the edit. And those are the ones that haunt me, because those are the ones that I feel I've failed those people. Because, you know, I could go on a trip and I can meet 20 different families, and I can't use all those stories. And so at some point I have to make a decision, and maybe 5 of those stories make it. Those 15 stories that don't make it, they keep me awake at night. They bother me. So I don't tend to think about the success stories. What I think about is the failures, and how I could have done better photographs, how I could have done a better story, because those are the ones I feel I've let down. You know, I think a really important part when you're learning to tell stories through photography is remember that everybody's story is unique. And as a photographer, your way of telling that story is unique. I think it's very easy to assume that to take a great photograph, you have to travel to Syria, you have to go to Afghanistan if you want to be a war photographer, or if you want to be a landscape photographer, you have to go to Mount Everest, or portrait photographer has to be a famous person. You know, my advice to anybody who's starting out is look at your own life, look at the things around you, because they're unique and you see them uniquely. So for me, you know, if somebody's starting out as a photographer, I'm interested in their walk to school. You know, the photographs, the landscapes that they would take along their walk to school. I'm interested in their families, or the families that live next door. You know, the stories are all around us. We don't tend to see those stories as interesting because we see them all the time. But for me, as a viewer, I'm fascinated by those. Look at your story. Look at the stories around you, and remember they're unique and you're the only one that can tell them. I think we have to accept there is no such thing as truth in photography. And that might seem strange coming from a documentary photographer, but I don't think there is truth. If I walk into a room, as soon as I point my camera in one direction and take a photograph, I've already put my signature on that, because I've stopped taking the rest of the room. I've made a decision. You don't know the person I'm photographing. Is somebody pointing a gun at them? You don't know the context of the time of day. You don't know anything. So how can we say that is true? But what I do believe is there's honesty in photography. And the honesty comes from believing somebody is there to try and help you understand a story. Somebody is trying to tell the story of the person in the image. That can be honesty. But I think we should get rid of the notion that there's such thing as truth. You know, I remember the first time I developed a photograph in a darkroom. And I bought like a sort of basic sort of darkroom kit. And I set it up in my parents' bathroom. And to this day, I mean, that's 25 years ago. But I remember watching that photograph starting to appear in the developer. And that magic moment has never left me. And there's something about black and white. There's something about the way that it looks, the way that it captures the world, that just entranced me right from the beginning. And so I've always loved black and white. Black and white sort of says, you know, this is a photograph, this is a story, this is not reality. It's my interpretation of reality. And I mean, to this day, if I see an image coming through in black and white, I'm so excited. And again, what I love is by shooting on film, I don't know, I can't see it. Like, it's not like I'm looking on the viewfinder or my laptop to see how it looks in black and white. You have to trust your instinct on that. And so when you actually see, it's kind of like, as the print comes through, it's the first time you see what you think you saw, which is a strange concept, but that's how it is. But that will never leave me, that magic.